the desert is an unforgiving place. During the day, it burns with heat that cracks open the earth, leaving behind wounds in the sand. At night, it freezes under the glow of the moon, a cold that creeps into bones and memories alike. People say the desert keeps secrets better than any grave, but sometimes the desert itself decides to reveal them. Salma had been in the UAE for nearly a decade. At 32, she was among the few female civil engineers trusted to lead projects worth millions. Raised in Chennai, India, her father was a math teacher who spent evenings tutoring her on calculus, hoping she would achieve the dreams he never could. She arrived in Dubai as a fresh graduate, eyes wide at the skyscrapers slicing the sky, each tower like a promise. Her first job was as a junior site inspector for a road contractor in Al Ain. For years, she endured harassment, racism, and overtime without complaint. Her mother back home always reminded her, "Be strong. The world will not give you your worth. You must take it." When Salma was appointed as lead engineer for the Al Mansouri eco-resort excavation in Ras Al Khaimah, it felt like her years of sacrifice had finally paid off. She imagined adding this project to her resume before applying for Canadian PR to start a new life. She did not know the desert she came to build upon would swallow her career and dignity whole. The Al Mansouri family, one of the Emirates' oldest business dynasties, planned to build a luxury eco-resort with private dune villas, falconry experiences, and yoga domes under stars. Marketing brochures showed influencers sipping tea beside infinity pools, captioning posts with hashtags like "How Desert Dreams" and "How Are Blessed." Salma arrived on site in October. The sun rose like an inferno over endless dunes, the air thick with dust and diesel fumes as excavators rumbled awake. She noticed him on her first day, Musa, the Kenyan foreman, standing near the cement mixers, hands on hips, eyes scanning the laborers with silent authority. His dark skin was burnished by decades of sun, lines carved deep around his eyes. Nearby worked Ravi, a 24-year-old Bangladeshi laborer. His shoulders were narrow, his eyes downcast, sweat dripping from his unlined forehead as he heaved rebar bundles twice his weight. Salma saw sadness in his eyes, a sadness she recognized from her own days as an intern in Chennai, scrubbing engineering drawings at midnight while men laughed in offices around her. Musa had arrived in Dubai 22 years ago. Back in Nairobi, he was a schoolteacher, but when his wife fell ill with breast cancer, he sold their land to pay for her chemotherapy. After her death, he left his 2 children with his mother and paid an agent to find him work in the Gulf. His first job was as a cleaner in Sharjah, then construction assistant, and eventually foreman for Al Mansouri's projects. He worked 12 hours a day, sending money home every month. His children grew up seeing him only through phone screens. He carried with him the silent guilt of missing his daughter's graduation, his son's first job offer. But he consoled himself each night whispering, "Baba is working for your future. One day, you will forgive me." Ravi left Dhaka 6 months ago. His father, once a proud tailor, fell into depression after losing his shop in the pandemic. His mother took loans from neighbors to feed the family, and at 22, Ravi became their only hope. The recruitment agent promised a cleaning job in a Dubai with 1,200 dirham salary and accommodation. But on arrival, his passport was confiscated, and he was driven in a bus to a labor camp. There, he lived in a shipping container with 9 other men, sleeping on mattresses stained with sweat, and cockroaches scuttling across the steel walls at night. He hadn't been paid in 2 months. Each morning, he folded his mother's photo into his pocket, whispering, "Amma, I will send money soon. Please wait for me." It was nearly noon when the excavator's blade scraped something solid beneath shifting dunes. The machine operator paused, assuming it was rocks. He radioed Musa, the foreman, to check. Musa approached with weary eyes. Kneeling, he brushed away loose grains with his calloused hands. His breath caught in his throat as a pale curve emerged. The top of a human skull, bleached by sun and sand. "Stop the work," he ordered hoarsely, voice trembling. Salma rushed over. The air pressed against her like a suffocating blanket as she saw it. Long, thin femurs curled beside a collapsed ribcage, cloth fragments clinging to bone. But as they uncovered more, the horror grew. Plastic zip ties bound wrist bones, cracked under pressure but unmistakable. Rotted black cloth covered empty eye sockets, as if the dead still refused to see what had been done to them. Within an hour, a patrol SUV rumbled across the sand, its tires leaving thick tracks through the dunes. Colonel Faisal stepped out, sunglasses reflecting noon light, his tan uniform crisp despite the heat. 2 officers flanked him silently. He approached the remains with calculated indifference, eyes flicking over exposed bones before settling on Salma. "Engineer Salma," he said, voice flat. "Who authorized excavation this deep?" "It was within the site plan, sir," she replied. "We didn't expect human remains." He turned to his junior officer, murmuring in Arabic, "Sheikh Ahmed cannot have delays. Label them tribal graves. Move quickly." Salma's ears rang. She blinked sweat and tears away as Colonel Faisal ordered yellow police tape strung between rebar stakes. That night, Musa sat alone on his cot in the labor camp, staring at his blistered palms. His mind drifted back 20 years to another Al-Mansuri project. Back then, he had been younger, stronger, filled with hope that his work in the Gulf would lift his family from Nairobi's slums. One day, his friend David fell from scaffolding, landing head first on concrete. Blood pooled under his skull as Musa screamed for help. Supervisors covered the body with a tarp. Hours later, a pickup truck arrived carrying him away. Musa asked where they were taking him. "To the embassy for repatriation," the supervisor snapped. But no embassy forms were signed. No funeral was held. David's mother died still waiting for his body to come home. Musa shivered in the heat, tears rolling down his cheeks into the pillow. In the whistling desert wind outside, he heard David's voice whisper his name. Salma spent that evening in her flat, blinds drawn against the dying light. She stared at the photos she had taken on her phone, blurred images of skeletons bound and buried. She thought of her father in Chennai, a man who once taught under mango trees, tracing geometry theorems into dusty ground with a twig. His greatest lesson was simple. Truth is like the center of a circle. Everything revolves around it. Lose it, and nothing has meaning. Salma sobbed into her hands. She had worked her whole life to build towers, bridges, highways, believing progress meant dignity for all. But here she was, silenced by powerful men building empires over buried bones. At dawn the next day, Ravi finished prayers behind the shipping container toilets. As he washed his face with tap water from a cracked jug, he felt fear coil in his gut. Later, while tying rebar under the rising sun, he approached Salma with trembling hands. "Madam," he whispered, glancing around to check supervisors weren't watching. "No salary 2 months. Boss says if we complain, deport. Last month, one boy fainted from heat stroke. He died before ambulance came. They took him away in garbage truck. We never saw him again." His eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't want to die here. I want to see my mother again. I promised her I would come back with money to build a brick house. Please. Please don't let them bury me here." Salma felt her throat close as she placed her hand on his shoulder. She wanted to scream into the dunes, to tear open the sky so God himself would see what was done here. That evening, Colonel Faisal sat alone in his office. Forensic reports on his laptop screen showing wrist ligature marks, skull fractures, an estimated time of death spanning 2 decades. He sipped tea, stomach roiling. He had daughters in private schools, sons in American universities. Challenging Sheikh Ahmed meant losing everything, perhaps even his freedom. His supervisor called him. "Faisal, close the case. These are tribal graves. We do not interfere with progress." He closed his eyes, whispering a prayer for forgiveness as he deleted evidence files from his desktop. Salma emailed the photos to a journalist she once met at a sustainability conference. 2 days later, her company terminated her contract, citing performance concerns. Within 48 hours, her UAE residency was revoked under administrative orders. At immigration, they stamped her passport with a silent ban, forbidding re-entry to GCC. On her flight back to Chennai, she watched the glowing towers fade beneath clouds. Tears fell onto her expired work permit resting in her lap. She realized her father's words about truth would haunt her forever. Musa resigned quietly. At Nairobi airport, his children hugged him with trembling arms, inhaling the scent of sweat and sand clinging to his clothes. That night, he lay awake listening to city traffic. But in his dreams, he was back in Ras Al Khaimah dunes, skeletons whispering in the wind, David's ghost calling his name. Ravi continued working on the site, laying foundation slabs over graves. Each dawn before sunrise, he prayed behind the container toilets, whispering, "Ya Allah, please don't let me join them under this sand. Let me go home. Let me build Amma her house." 6 months later, the Al Mansouri Desert Eco Resort opened to global acclaim. Guests sipped saffron tea on private dune decks. Influencers posed for sunset selfies. No one knew what lay beneath their feet. No one asked. No one cared. In the shadows of Dubai's towers and Ras Al Khaimah's dunes, secrets remain buried beneath sands. The powerful build empires over the bones of the forgotten, covering them with glass, concrete, and hashtags. But the desert wind remembers. Each night it howls their names, whispering stories that no one will ever hear. Their bones remain under polished tiles and landscaped date palms, reminders that for the poor and undocumented, even death brings no dignity. Only silence.